There is a fascinating twist in West Ham's striker search because the man Nuno Espirito Santo apparently wanted most was not necessarily the forward supporters spent weeks expecting to arrive. The failed pursuit of Joel Piroe looked like a major setback, but the manager's preferred solution may have been sitting elsewhere all along. At the same time, West Ham are trying to remove some extremely expensive baggage from the squad, with 4 players who cost a combined £111 million moving closer to the exit door. It is another major stage in dismantling the recruitment legacy left behind by Tim Steedon. So we need to look closely at the striker Nuno really wanted and what this huge squad clear-out tells us about the direction West Ham are now taking. And if you enjoy clear West Ham discussion without the noise, subscribe and stay with the channel. West Ham pushed hard to sign Joel Piroe from AZ Alkmaar, but that move stalled before attention shifted towards Leeds United forward Joel Piroe. The important detail is that Nuno Espirito Santo is understood to have regarded Piroe as his #1 striker target from the start of the summer. That changes the way this situation should be viewed. Piroe was clearly a serious target, and West Ham did try to get him, but Piroe does not appear to be simply the emergency alternative chosen after that deal collapsed. Roshane Thomas has identified Piroe as the striker Nuno wanted all along. There is still an obvious question over why West Ham waited so long if the manager was so keen on him. Leeds had made it clear Piroe had no future there, although claims elsewhere suggested they had been demanding £16 million up front for the 20-7-year-old. West Ham have instead agreed a loan with an obligation to buy if they win promotion back to the Premier League. That structure matters for a club whose express expectation is promotion from the Championship. West Ham have been left dangerously short through the middle, with Pablo their only striker option before injury made the position even more urgent. The transfer window remaining open gave Nuno and Director of Recruitment Nils Koppen room to find a solution. Supporters who wanted the more ambitious Piroe deal may still see Piroe as the cheaper choice, but his championship record cannot simply be brushed aside. He has scored 73 goals in 179 appearances in the division, and that is substantial evidence of what he can do at this level. Piroe scored 41 championship goals in 91 matches for Swansea, then another 32 in 88 for Leeds. He also helped the Elland Road club return to the Premier League. Whatever anyone thinks about the collapse of the Piroe move, West Ham are pursuing a forward with proven championship production. There is another important distinction here. Piroe may have been associated more strongly with the recruitment operation around Nils Koppen, while Nuno's preference was Piroe. That does not make the failed negotiations with AZ Alkmaar irrelevant, but it does suggest the manager and the recruitment department may have been weighing different options. The timing now becomes crucial. Piroe is having a medical and is expected to be unveiled by West Ham in time to play Charlton at the weekend. After all the uncertainty surrounding the position, Nuno finally appears close to getting the striker identified as his preferred target. And West Ham may not be finished there. Jamie Vardy is still considering a move to the club, which means the possibility remains that another striker could arrive alongside Piroe rather than instead of him. For a squad that had been operating with such limited options, that would represent a significant change. The frustration over missing Piroe is understandable because West Ham spent weeks pushing for the AZ Alkmaar forward. But judging Piroe solely as the man who came after that disappointment would miss the central point. Nuno's own preference gives this transfer a very different context. Before we move into the major squad exits, tell me where you stand on Joel Piroe and whether his championship record gives you confidence that West Ham are finally addressing the striker problem properly. The other major development concerns Tim Steedon's recruitment legacy, and the figures are brutal. Niklas Füllkrug, Jean-Claire Todibo, Edson Alvarez, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka cost West Ham a combined £111 million, yet their departures are expected to generate only around £20 to £25 million in return. Steeden left West Ham in February 2025 after 18 months at the club. Graham Potter had arrived, Kyle McCauley had been appointed as his own head of recruitment, and the German technical director departed as the structure around recruitment began changing. One Steeden signing, Luis Gilherme, had already been moved to Sporting last season. Now another four are heading towards the door, starting with Füllkrug, who cost £27 million and has completed a loan move back to his former club Werder Bremen while sacrificing some of his salary. The uncomfortable part of that Füllkrug arrangement is that Werder Bremen do not have an option to buy him. At the end of the loan, he will still have another year remaining on the 4-year West Ham contract he signed. So even this exit does not completely remove the financial consequence of the original decision. Todibo's position looks even more damaged. The £35 million centre-back fell out with Julen Lopetegui, Graham Potter, and eventually Nuno Espirito Santo. After being substituted just 25 minutes into the must-not-lose game at Newcastle in West Ham's survival battle, he told Nuno he would never play for him again. Todibo has maintained that position through pre-season and is now closing in on a return to France with Marseille. The remaining obstacle is an agreement between West Ham and Marseille over how his salary will be covered. That is another expensive signing moving towards the exit without West Ham simply recovering what they paid. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is different because he cannot reasonably be placed in exactly the same category. He won Hammer of the Year in his debut season after arriving for £15 million. But his form and apparent attitude during the following campaign were identified as contributing factors in West Ham's decline. Wan-Bissaka has also been pushing for an exit, and Aston Villa are expected to bid for him. West Ham want £20 million for the former Manchester United right-back. Unlike some of the other names involved, there is at least the possibility here of a fee above what the club originally paid. Then there is Edson Alvarez. The £34 million midfielder had appeared ready to stay after returning from the World Cup and changing his squad number from 19 to his preferred number 4. Reports in Mexico had even claimed he wanted to help take West Ham back to the Premier League. But the situation changed dramatically when Alvarez was reported to have withdrawn from the squad for the opening match against Burnley after another club expressed interest in him. Nuno was left using two youngsters in central midfield, which shows how directly these transfer situations can affect the team he is trying to build. Steeden had been looking at taking Alvarez to Cologne, while his former club, Club America, may also be interested. Any departure is likely to be another loan designed primarily to remove him from the wage bill and the dressing room rather than produce a substantial transfer return. This is where the striker situation and the squad clear-out connect. Nuno is trying to bring in players he actually wants, while West Ham simultaneously work to move out expensive players who no longer fit the direction of the team. Piroe represents one side of the rebuild, Todibo and the others represent the cost of correcting the previous one. The contrast is difficult to miss. West Ham are negotiating carefully over a striker with 73 championship goals, while still dealing with the financial consequences of more than £100 million spent on Füllkrug, Todibo, Alvarez and Wan-Bissaka. Every new decision is being made against the weight of those older commitments. That also explains why the structure of the Piroe deal is worth noting. A loan with an obligation to buy after promotion limits the immediate commitment in a way that fits a club rebuilding for a championship campaign. It is very different from throwing another large guaranteed fee into a squad already carrying expensive mistakes. There could be further movement beyond the Steeden quartet. Sungu Tamegasa has removed old traces of West Ham from his profile following the arrival of Arne Engels, while Mohamedou Kanté is another player West Ham have taken a notable position on selling. The overhaul is clearly broader than for departures. But the central responsibility still belongs to Nuno. He has the express expectation of taking West Ham back to the Premier League, and that means recruitment cannot be judged simply by reputation or transfer fees. He needs players who suit the championship task and a dressing room prepared to follow him. West Ham's position is becoming much clearer. Piroe offers proven second-tier goals and appears to be the striker Nuno wanted, while the departures of Fulkrug, Todibo, Alvarez and potentially Wan-Bissaka continue the separation from Steedton's recruitment era. The club are trying to build one squad while paying the price for dismantling another. For supporters, that makes the next phase less about glamorous names and more about whether the decisions finally fit together. Nuno needs a reliable striker, authority inside the dressing room, and a squad capable of carrying the expectation of promotion. West Ham cannot afford another expensive collection of individuals without a coherent purpose. The real test will be whether these changes produce a stronger West Ham rather than simply a different one. The money lost on previous recruitment cannot be recovered by talking about a fresh start, but smarter arrivals, decisive exits, and players committed to the manager can begin correcting the damage. If you want more focused West Ham analysis as this rebuild develops, like the video, subscribe, and keep following the channel.